Mr Davies, let's just change tack slightly, staying on law and order, but the Fathers for Justice campaigners are at the moment on Harriet Harmens' roof. What do you think of that sort of direct action? And if that was your house, how would you have reacted this morning?
Well, if it was my house, I'd be very cross, I have to say. I mean, Fathers for Justice have a case, but this is not the way to promote it. Clambering over somebody's private property. I mean, it's one thing when it's a demo on a public piece of property. It's another thing entirely when it's somebody's private property. And I think even I think that government ministers deserve not to be harassed at weekends. So I'm afraid I think Harriet Harmen's response to it was entirely right.
And are you concerned that MPs' addresses seem so readily available that if they can find Harriet Harmen's address, I'm afraid to tell you they can probably find yours and demonstrate on your roof?
Well, I'm quite sure they can find mine. My address is a matter of public record, both of them. So it could happen. Of course, you're quite right. But I just don't think this is very smart for Fathers for Justice. I mean, what they're doing is actually detracting from their case rather than helping their case. They are leading people to think that they're being unreasonable. And I'm afraid on this occasion they are. There are better ways. I understand they're trying to get a meeting with Harriet Harmen. The way you do that is you write a letter. You don't camp on somebody's roof.
David Davis, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, more now on that protest by members of the group Fathers for Justice who have, as we were just saying, climbed onto the roof of Deputy Labour leader Harriet Harmen's home, calling for greater fathers' access to children. Well, we can cross now to Southampton and speak to the founder of Fathers for Justice, Matt O'Connor. Mr O'Connor, you may just have heard there David Davis saying if you want to get a meeting, the way to do it is to write a letter. It isn't to pitch up on somebody's roof. Is it, aren't your members, frankly, making a bit of a fool of themselves?
This is a very serious issue and it needs to be and deserves to be treated in a very serious way. We have spent the last 2 years trying to engage government ministers like Harriet Harmen by writing letters, by having meetings with MPs, by having meetings with MPs in the Conservative Party, the Labour Party and the Liberal Party. And do you know what the answer has been? Frankly, nobody in this country seems to give a damn about fathers. Nobody seems to care about the consequences of mass fatherlessness in this country. Our children are dying in the streets around where Harriet Harmen lives, and nobody seems to care. All people seem to care about is our privacy, our Sundays. We are sending a message to the government, make a clear and unequivocal statement now, in the next 7 days in the run-up to Father's Day, and say we value fathers, we support fathers, and we support the principle of equality that all fathers want, and not more than mums, but the same as mums.
Now, we can see at the moment, I appreciate you probably can't see this, Mr O'Connor, but your members on the roof there, dressed as superheroes. We know this very familiar campaign you run. This is, of course, a stunt, but it doesn't make your members look terribly responsible, does it? They've intruded the privacy of Harriet Harmen and her husband. They've probably frightened them out of their wits. It doesn't make them look like responsible fathers.
Well, I don't think a couple of overweight guys dressed in lycra are particularly scary. I heard Hazel Blear's earlier.
Your privacy on a Sunday morning is frightening.
Well, a couple of overweight guys dressed in lycra. I mean, I heard Hazel Blear's earlier saying this was a violent demonstration. What, violent chaffing of lycra on the legs of a couple of guys scaling a roof? This is a serious issue. Let's get to the hub of this. Let's get to the consequences of what's happening to our children on the streets. 27 dead teenagers on the streets of London, killed last year in the bloody harvest of bullets and blades. The elephant in the room that both Harriet Harmen, David Cameron, Gordon Brown and, I should say, even Boris Johnson have to get to grips with is the fact that it's not to do with just taking knives off kids. It's about plugging fathers back into families. They have to grasp the nettle of this problem. All we're saying is that for 2 years we have tried constructive engagement. We have written letters. We have tried every single means available to us for the last 2 years of constructive engagement, and we have got nowhere. I have people dying. I have a father called Richard Castle in South London, about half a mile from where Harriet Harmen lives, who has not seen his daughter for 7 years, who is dying of leukemia. People are dying. Mark Harris is on the roof of Harriet Harmen's house this afternoon, went to prison for 140 days, all because he wanted to see his children. What does this government expect us to do?
We know very well
Are we supposed to abandon our children just because it's inconvenient that Harriet Harmen's house has a couple of overweight superheroes on it on a Sunday afternoon?
We know very well your intentions, your plans for Fathers for Justice, your very successful campaigning group. And yet the point I put to you is that as a campaigning group, wouldn't it be more sensible to use traditional routes to try and contact people, ways to try and raise publicity? Because while you're getting prominence here, you must accept that a lot of people won't look at you and think, great, what a successful campaign. They'll look at you and think, you're dressed in a Superman T-shirt, they're dressed as superheroes, that you're not making an effective point. You're getting publicity.
I don't think you heard what I said earlier. Let me repeat to you again what I said. I'm very clear and very unequivocal here. I wrote a letter to Harriet Harmen via my MP Mark Houghton asking specifically for a meeting. She wrote back via Mark Houghton, my MP for Winchester, and said she would not meet. I asked for a meeting with Peter Hain, who was then the Minister at the Department of Work and Pensions, about the Child Support Agency, because our barrister had been sent to prison last year because he was in a dispute over child support payments. And do you know what Peter Hain said? No, I will not meet with you. It was discussed at Cabinet level. They decided they would not talk with us. We have tried the route that you have suggested. I have tried the route that David Davis has suggested. What else do we do? Who else is standing up in this country for fathers? Who else is standing up for the children of our country, the boys who are dying on our capital streets around the corner from Harriet Harmen's house? You know, they used to say the streets of London were paved with gold. They're now paved with the blood of our children.
Mr. O'Connor, we will have to leave it there. We could talk for a lot longer, but we're out of time. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.